If you thought the Jay-Z and Beyonce saga was over, you better think again, because 50 Cent just jumped into the mix, and he's got some hot takes that flip the whole narrative upside down. You know how fans have been dragging Jay-Z, claiming he's a manipulator pushing Beyonce into some shady stuff? Well, 50's here to spill the tea, saying we've got it all twisted. Not only is Beyonce just as messy as Jay-Z, but he's suggesting she might even be worse. And he came with receipts, and get this, 5050 also claims that not only was Beyonce Edley involved in Diddy's freak-offs, but she is trying to make Jay-Z take the blame for their drama by setting him up for failure and throwing him under the bus when it all hits the fan chili. There's a lot to unpack here. Because 50's revelations are shocking to say the least, grab a seat, because this Hollywood drama is reaching new heights, especially when it comes to Jay-Z and Beyonce. If you've been living under a rock, let me fill you in. There are rumors that Beyonce is seriously considering packing her bags and divorcing Jay-Z. This situation has been brewing for a minute, and for a while thought Beyonce was ready to leave because she was fed up with Jay's alleged manipulation. There have been a lot of reports about how Jay-Z isn't exactly the poster child for a good guy with a history of shady business and questionable activities behind the scenes. I won't get into all the messy details of his accusations. I'm sure you've heard the reports by now. For a long time, people saw Beyonce as just another one of his victims, especially given her almost perfect ID public image and the fact that she was so young when they first got together. Beyonce talked about this in an interview, saying, "I was 18 when we first met at 19. When we started dating, there was no rush. No one expected me to run off and get married." They officially started dating when Beyonce was 19 and Jay-Z was 31, which is a very noticeable age gap. But it's even worse than that, because in a 2007 Charlie Rose interview, Jay-Z said he'd met they 10 years ago, or in 1997. If they met in 1997, and Beyonce was only 16 when they met, in fact, depending on when they met, she could have been 15. For all we know, the thought of Jay-Z, who was in his late 20s, 27 or 28 at the time, pursuing a 16-year-old beyond was just shady, to say the very least. Because of all this, people tend to view Beyonce as the victim, often leaving her out of the conversation when Jay-Z gets dragged for his shady antics. Even when the couple is under fire for supposedly blackballing other artists in the industry, the focus usually shifts to Jay-Z and his alleged misuse of power, while Beyonce escapes the spotlight because, well, she's the media's darling. But 50 Cent is here to shake things up and isn't letting this narrative slide any longer. He's ready to drop some insider information, and let's say that his thoughts on Beyonce aren't exactly flattering. When blogger Storm Monroe first shared the news of the divorce a couple of months back, everyone was rallying behind Beyonce, praising her for taking a stand and leaving Jay-Z for good. But now with 50 Cent's comments, it looks like we might have been wrong all along.
But what I've heard about them as a couple is that they've been living separate lives for a very long time. So they together, but they living separate. And part of the reason why they have already living separate lives, and we may actually see one of the biggest divorces in Hollywood, is because Jay-Z is up next to be exposed. And it's only so much of these stories that Jay-Z can, he can pay off or he can block. He won't be able to stop this. And she knows it, and he knows it too. As far as who's gonna be the breakout victim / story, I don't know. I might have to answer some. I don't know. But I'm just letting you know that once that comes out and Jay-Z is exposed for his nefarious past, you're gonna see Beyonce. Okay? And she may or may not do an interview, but their publicist is gonna release something. She's gonna say, "Oh, the artists have been separated for some time. They built this beautiful."
Fans were living for the idea of Beyonce leaving Jay-Z, especially since Storm hinted that Jay was about to get exposed big time. And I'm not talking about a little bit of gossip here. I mean something huge like Diddy level exposure for some wild things he's done in The past. What's wild is that Storm wasn't even the first one to drop this tea about Jay-Z facing the music after Cassie's explosive lawsuit that took Diddy to task over some truly horrific stuff. Jaguar Wright stepped in to say Jay-Z was next in line to be exposed. She even claimed that the reason Jay-Z hadn't been exposed yet was that he's just smarter and more careful than Diddy. But his luck had run out.
He's patient. He's not sloppy. He been lining up people he calls friends and stepping to the side while they get hit by the guillotine for 30 years.
You know what they say, birds of a feather flock together. And it looks like that might just be the case with Jay-Z and Diddy. The streets are saying that Jay-Z might be just as shady as Diddy. And considering all the allegations against Diddy, folks were low. Key relieved to hear Beyonce was thinking about divorce on top of that whole age gap thing. Let's not forget that jayz has cheated on Beyonce multiple times over the years. I'm not just talking about that infamous Becky with the good hair drama. He's been cheating since the very beginning of their relationship. Reports say Jay started cheating just a few months after they got together, and one of the first names that popped up was singer Charli Baltimore. If you've been following this mess, you probably caught the rumors about their affair happening right under Beyonce's nose. For those who might not be up to speed, Charli Baltimore used to date the legendary Notorious Big aka Biggie Smalls back in the day. Reports say she eventually got tired of being the other woman while Jay-Z flaunted his relationship with Beyonce, so she decided to cut things off with him. But Jay-Z didn't handle that well at all. He got jealous when Charli moved on to another man, so jealous that he risked going to jail. Remember when he was arrested for a guy at a club? He'd a producer claiming the man was illegally distributing bootleg copies of his album Volume 3, Life and Times of E.S. Carter. They met at a club, and Jay pulled an a knife and went for it. However, insiders including 50 Cent are calling BS on that whole story. 50 Cent claimed that the real reason for the was that Jay-Z found out Charli was dating the producer, and he couldn't handle it, like getting mad at your former side piece for moving on while you're dating Beyonce. That's next level. Petty, and 50 Cent isn't alone in this. Rapper Cameron backed him up, confirming that the stabbing was all about Charli.
It wasn't over no money. It wasn't over being righteous. What was it over? A chick? What we don't do is we don't fuck with our homies' ex-bitches.
Bow.
You feel me?
You know who that is now,
I
right?
said bow. Charli Baltimore.
There you go.
Speaking of 50 Cent, he's stepping back into the spotlight to weigh in on the whole divorce situation. And let's just say he's not exactly riding for Beyonce. He's claiming that she's the real villain that everyone thinks Jay-Z is. For those who might not know, 50 Cent and Jay-Z have had a long-standing beef, and Beyonce got pulled into it when she stepped up to defend her man. Now, let me give you some backstory as to how this beef started in the first place. The tension between Jay-Z and 50 started in the day when 50 dissed Jay-Z in his 1999 hit How to Rob. People have always speculated that he did it for clout, especially since Jay was already major player in the game while 50 was still on the rise. That track was actually 50 Cent's first big hit, and it created quite a stir. To be fair, Jay-Z wasn't the only target in 50 Cent's How to Rob. He went in on a whole lineup of top artists including Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, Diddy, Missy Elliott, Will Smith, and a bunch of others from that era. In his disc about Jay, 50 rapped what Giga just sold like 4 milli. He got something to live for. Don't want a man putting 4 through that Bentley coupe door. A lot of the artists who got called out fired back with their own responses. But Jay-Z is known for holding grudges, which is why the beef between him and 50 has dragged on for so long. Eventually, Jay-Z clapped back with his own diss track titled It's Hot, Some Like It Hot, where he famously said, "Go against your dents, I'm about $1. What the F is 50 Cent's?" 50 Cent eventually admitted that he was chasing clout when he dissed Jay-Z and the other rappers. And in an interview with Rolling Stone, 50 Cent said, when he responded, "I was complimented." He wouldn't say nothing back to somebody he didn't think was hot. "I never went to radio until after he said that about me. I don't know. If my career would be where it's at if he didn't respond anyway. Back to the beef with Jay-Z, 50C admitted that the reason he had a problem with Jay-Z was that Jay-Z felt like he was the greatest. In another interview, he said he has a king complex. He thinks he's effing Jesus. You know what I mean? This Jehovah is, I'm just watching him. He said something one time, I didn't like those little things, subliminal things for me. That's the punk way to do things. Jay-Z tried to deny the rumors of the beef, saying that he and 50 were fine. But 50 was not about to let this narrative fly.